I just got done recording perhaps the most fun off-season of this entire series, and I screwed up the footage and won't be able to actually show it to you. I plan on recapping everything that happened in this video, and then getting into the preseason, and we'll see from there. I've never had to make an off-season quite like this one, but I hit a button in my recording software that made it so it wasn't actually saving the video footage, so I have all the audio, but nothing to actually watch in terms of the off-season. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time recording it, and it felt like a great revitalization of this series. Now, the result of that off-season is still going to be here, and I hope you're looking forward to what I have to share today, because I think it's going to make this series much better. But I do have clips from like past recordings showing like who was a pending free agent, and I can supplement with some of that stuff. But otherwise, I'll just have to kind of tell you what happened and then show you stuff in the transaction log and then on our actual roster. So basically, we know that the Giants in this series have become a bit of a juggernaut, having won 2 Super Bowls, and it looked like we were unstoppable. We made it to a 3rd consecutive Super Bowl, but the Kansas City Chiefs were much better than us. Like, that game humbled me. And having lost the Super Bowl and lost the division, it feels like there's something for us to work towards now going into our next season. Now, one of the things I've been doing to make this series more balanced and realistic is to get the XP sliders in a good spot so that you have more higher rated players, and those players then ask for more money, and the salary cap becomes more of a concern. In the offseason, I had this line I thought was great that basically said, this was our first NFL offseason. The rest were MLB off seasons, because it just felt like everything was kind of easy. We never had to worry about the salary cap and make tough moves. But in this latest off season, we actually had to, because it finally would not fit. We entered the off season with $47 million in cap space, but pending free agents such as Saquon Barkley, Justin Tucker, Otis Springs, Sergio Angulo, a variety of role players, and don't forget Adoree Jackson, Darnay Holmes. It finally was not going to fit, and I had to decide who we were going to move on from. And I've already alluded to that Saquon Barkley was probably going to be leaving because he's the best running back in the game, he's paid like it, and I just didn't think it worked well for our salary cap. On top of that, we had Tavares Towns, and I was ready to give him the chance to start in his 4th NFL season. Oh, by the way, when the offseason got underway, I decided, like, hey, let's get new coordinators because Madden's system doesn't let them be hired by other teams. So I, got rid of our coordinators and signed new ones that were, pretty much just as good. I don't know. The features here, half-baked, not where they need to be. We have new coordinators, but it's not all that important. I was wondering about retirements, but only Jake Matthews decided to retire. Michael Thomas did not. Now, as you can see on this screen, I ended up re-signing Otis Springs, and the reason is because I have just felt like the defense is much better with him. We experimented last year playing Nick Gresham in that second linebacker role, that sub linebacker, and I didn't think it went well. I felt like the defense was so much better when Springs was out there, and we didn't have a player ready to take over for him if we moved on. I like Springs against the run, but he's also made plays against the pass, and to me, it was a good move to sign him to a 4-year deal, and he accepted a 4-year, almost a $40 million contract, so he's in that mid-tier, and I felt like even with $47 million cap space, it was a good use of the space. Springs is a really good player, and that keeps our duo together. Here you'll notice 2 more moves. We re-signed Darrell Gordon to a 2-year, $8.4 million contract. I knew we probably couldn't keep all the corners, but I've liked Gordon as depth. and 2 years, $8 million to me was very fair, and I feel like he's been good when he's been out there, although a lot of that has been as a blitzer. But we also ended up franchise tagging Saquon Barkley, and this was to do a tag and trade. Having Saquon Barkley on the team at $17 million or more was just not something I wanted to do. A long-term deal with a smaller year one cap hit also wasn't a great idea because he's 30 years old. I think 31 now. He didn't regress much going into the offseason. He was still a 99, but the plan was still going to be to tag and trade. Regression was actually very kind to us overall. Michael Thomas had probably the worst regression, or some of the worst, and it still shows here. He's still on the team, obviously. I did not move on from him. I just feel like he's so reliable, and even though he's going to have a $20 million cap hit, I don't really feel comfortable trying to replace him right now, and wasn't sold on the receiver draft class either. But he has regressed more. He is now 34 years old, entering year 12. I think this will be his last year with the team. Some more regression to think about here. Jabril Peppers lost his development going from superstar down to star, and also lost a fair amount of actual ratings points as well. 7 total in the coverage department, 5 awareness. Secondary has been one of those spots that's been strong for us in this series, but a lot of those players have been getting older. You know, James Bradbury isn't on the team. Peppers is in his 30s. McKinney's not far behind. And then we had Darnay Holmes and Adoree Jackson, both free agents. And Jackson ended up being like an 82 or 83 overall going into the offseason. After signing Otis Springs and Darrell Gordon, that still left us with $35 million in cap space. I wanted to keep some of that money just in case we could go to free agency and make a big move. The way I put it, if there was a JC Jackson caliber free agent corner available, that would be my top priority. I like having a really good number 1 shutdown cornerback, and I'm not convinced Isaiah Cunningham can be that guy. I kind of see him as more of a number 2 corner. But to really do much in free agency, I needed to trade Saquon Barkley and take care of that salary. And I wanted to trade him to a team where he would be obviously the best running back and would play. And I wanted to trade him out of conference. And I also was not going to want a first-round pick in return. I mean, he's like 31 years old. I don't think that any 30-year-old running back is getting a first-round pick in return in a trade while on a 1-year deal with the franchise tag. So I said a second-round pick was fair, and I made the trade. And we have traded Saquon Barkley to the Los Angeles Chargers, where he's going to play on an offense with Justin Herbert and become their number 1 running back. We got a second-round pick in return. I think maybe a late-round pick in there as well. I think it was like a 2 and a 5. I'll show you in a second. Now, Barkley has been absolutely crucial to our success in this series, and he's never had less than 1,100 rushing yards. He was obviously hurt this year, but otherwise, he's averaging around 100 yards a game, and he has for 4 straight seasons. So why move on from him? I just didn't think that the salary made sense given our space, and I just felt like it was the right time to move on to Tavares Towns before he becomes a free agent next year and a decision has to be made on him. I think we're extremely lucky that Towns did not lose his superstar development because he hasn't played starting downs. I mean, he's been playing as a part-time player, and sure, we've gotten him 300 carries the last 2 years, but I wasn't sure it would be enough, but it has been with those touchdowns, and last year finally gave me the confidence to give him this opportunity. He broke tackles at a much higher rate than his second season. Yards per carry speaks for itself. I feel very good about Towns. We made the trade at the start of free agency, sending Saquon Barkley to the Chargers. We got pick 46 and 142 in return. Now, my draft plan at this stage was really to focus on the offensive line and then go BPA. I loved the tackles in this class. Yesterday, I did my channel member stream on the main channel, and I spent that stream going through this class, and I really liked the tackles. I was very underwhelmed at other positions, especially early in the first round. So I felt like I could take a tackle and then spend the rest of the draft doing whatever. So my free agency plan was to take a look at what we could do at corner, maybe backup edge rusher. But I knew we probably weren't spending a lot of money. We just didn't have a lot of space. Juwan Johnson's playoff success definitely helped him stay on the roster going into next year. He was such a game changer. We're talking 500 plus yards, 6 touchdowns, and 4 postseason games. He's coming back for the last year of his deal. Now, I was also interested in keeping John Bolden and Josh Meadows. You can tell that didn't happen because they ended up getting fairly strong free agent markets in the second stage. I really wanted Meadows to stay because he, to me, was the perfect replacement for Juwan Johnson. And you could argue that maybe I should have just moved on from Johnson and gone right to Josh Meadows, but I did not do that. I thought I could get him back on a 2-year, $8 million deal. I offered that to him in stage 1. He declined, and that was smart because he was able to secure a 4-year contract that'll pay him around $5 million a season, and he'll be going to the Colts. John Bolden, I didn't make like a huge priority. I just like him, and he ended up moving on. I think this will end up being a very similar deal that he gets from Cincinnati. Both players go to AFC teams, so not sure we're going to see them much, but they both got pretty good deals elsewhere. Ultimately, the cornerback market in free agency wasn't all that impressive. Tre'Davious White was available, but he was asking for, I think, $16 million a season. And when I had checked on signing him, it would have been all of our remaining cap space that we had. So that obviously didn't happen. He actually got an $18 million deal here from the Bucks. And I wish I still had like the free agency recap screen to do this differently. Like, I finished recording and then I went to go like load the file into my software and then save it. And I noticed there was no video. And by then, I had already simulated to the preseason and I had already turned off my PlayStation. So I could not like hit the share play button and like grab the last 2 hours of footage or whatever, because I would have and done this differently. So really screwed that up. Man, I really wish I didn't mess that up. We never actually gave an offer to Darnay Holmes. He was asking for more than Adoree Jackson, so I decided, hey, let's try to bring back Jackson. He's been really solid. Darnay Holmes gets $12 million from Philly. With him going to the Eagles, you know we're going to see him again, but Adoree Jackson, I kind of lowballed him a little bit. Offered him like $6 million, I think. He ends up getting close to 10 from Washington. So, Adoree Jackson is moving on. That's a tough one because I think he's been extremely good for us. Missing on those two, not having the money to really go after a player like Tre'Davious White, I decided to then look at the trade market. And again, I ended up targeting the Chargers. We traded the Chargers, Saquon, Barkley, but I felt like there was something else this team could use. And so we also traded them. Kadarius Toney to be their new number 1 receiver. This team needed some playmakers, and we really helped him out. I think Kadarius Toney has been a good player for us. Not quite a great player, and I was ready to move on from his salary. And this was not the contract he had before. He had cap hits of like 11 and 12 million, so I'm not... Oh, you know what it is? I think it's us paying the signing bonus because we have dead money now. And so the cap hit he has with the Chargers is much smaller. So we're eating salary and trading Toney to the Chargers. But obviously we did that for a reason. I had to make a move at corner. And we have brought in Asante Samuel Jr., 27 years old, star development, and he is honestly the perfect replacement for Adoree Jackson. They're both very athletic, can play on the outside. Asante's got really good press coverage. I think that's a really nice swap for us. And the Chargers, I think, eat some dead money in that trade as well, because his cap hits for us for 3 years are so easily manageable. I think this ends up being a really nice move for us, and it upgrades our secondary. And obviously, as you can see right now going into the season, there might still be some work to do. Asante Samuel on one side, Isaiah Cunningham on the other. Do we trust Terrell Gordon in the slot? That was a pretty exciting trade. We ended up getting... I gave them a 5th round pick as well, because I'm like, I think Asante Samuel is probably a better player than Kadarius Toney. They were same overall, but I threw in a 5th round pick just to be nice, I guess. And look at the smile on Brandon Staley's face, like he's pretty stoked about this. So we also ended up re-signing Justin Tucker and AJ Cole. I didn't think the specialists in the draft were like great, so I'm like, just give me the stability. I know I'm paying a premium for specialists, but we're just gonna do it. I also wanted to address backup edge rusher, and we were able to get Emmanuel Ogbah signed to a deal. I just really like Ogbah in case like somebody gets hurt. We can really put him in a variety of spots. He's not great at anything, but he's decent at everything. I felt like that was a nice move, and it didn't take a huge contract either. When the offseason got underway, I had also put Azeez Ojulari on the trade block, and I still don't really know the future of him with this team. He ended up having a great contract year, and that worked out great for him. But now the last 2 years, he hasn't been as productive. Now, he has been dropping into coverage a bit more, and he does have 3 interceptions. Like, if you said he was an off-ball linebacker and looked at the stat sheet, like, that looks pretty good. Tackle's a little low. But I see him probably continuing to play for us for at least another season. But at some point, I need more pass rush production if the cap hits are this high. But to move on from him, we'd be eating so much dead money. I don't think it makes much sense to trade. Like a release here. Yeah, it's still not the right time. So it really didn't take long to list all of our offseason transactions. We simply, re-signed a couple players. We traded Saquon Barkley. We traded Kadarius Toney. And only brought in one outside free agent, Emmanuel Ogbah. So at this point, there were only 2 new players on the entire team. Ogbah and then Asante Samuel. I struck out going after some other free agents. There was a running back who was like 93 speed, 225 pounds. That was pretty heartbreaking for a few seconds. And then I tried to bring in a couple of tight ends. I think I offered to Joe Brooks, if you remember him. He declined, I think. Yeah, I don't think we ended up getting him. Maybe I pulled the offer, actually. But I felt good about being able to fill some spots in the draft. We didn't spend a lot of money in free agency, but other teams were actually able to. I forgot to show retirements, but obviously there was only one for us, and that was obviously Jake Matthews. But there are some key retirements around the league, but really, I've been trying to get this XP slider situation sorted so that in free agency, there'd be some higher rated players and teams couldn't just afford to keep all of their best. And this year was so refreshing. There weren't a lot of players in the 90s, but in the high 80s, you bet. Taking a look at some of those deals, how about McCole Hardman getting 4 years, $43 million from the Steelers? A 26-year-old receiver, Taj Beckett, got 4 years, $43 to go to Jacksonville. De'Ami Brown got a big deal. The receiver market was decent for Madden. Not quite what it is in real life with the Christian Kirk deal, kind of taking things to a new level. DeForest Buckner, still like 92, 93 overall. He gets a deal from the Steelers. Probably just filling that role that Cam Hayward had. Irv Smith, 4 years, $30 million, going to the Cardinals. Like, it's so cool seeing some of these players move to new teams, actually, because that's what happens in the real NFL. Although I Would like to see Irv Smith stay in Minnesota for a long time. Think he'll have a really nice season this year. TJ Hawkinson was also a free agent. We'll eventually come up to his deal. Marquise Payne, the Chiefs star receiver. He's going to Pittsburgh as well. 3 years, 27. Frank Ragnow on a center deal. 2 years, 25 mil is pretty cool. The Buccaneers even signed a linebacker. 5 years, 50 million for Dwayne Jackson. This was the big one though. The Panthers were able to sign one of the better tackles in the league, Zaire Grubbs, to a 5-year, $78.9 million contract. Those are the kinds of deals, and Hawkinson's here. These are the deals our franchise was missing, and it throws off a lot of the balance and the fun in the series. Oh, a late retirement here for Akeem Hicks. I didn't know that really happened. There's the deal for John Bolden, solid $5 million a season. Ruben Knight took a 2-year deal to go to Tennessee. Sergio Angulo is going to Buffalo, 2 years, $11 million. Those are the kinds of contracts that start to get tougher now with where our salary cap situation has been going. Because, you know, when you have $40 million and you have 4 pending free agents who are starters, the decisions get much more difficult, and that's when franchise, to me, gets more fun. Like CJ Anderson, 78 overall run stopper. Good player. 2 years, 13 mil. You gotta think about that one. Free agency playing out this way made the offseason so much more fun to me. These were, without a doubt, like the most cap restricting decisions I had to make in the entire series. I'm glad we're finally there. I really wish I hadn't simulated to the preseason, because at least having the draft recap would have let me show you that. It's harder for me to really share the draft in a fun way, I feel. But obviously we were set to pick at 31st overall. It was a good quarterback class at the top. There were some really good offensive linemen who weren't even mocked to go in the first round that I felt could be starters. So I was extremely confident in coming away with a starting lineman, whether it be in the first round or the second, because we had that extra second round pick from the Chargers in the Saquon Barkley trade. So the draft got underway. The Vikings ended up taking a quarterback number 1. There was a quarterback number 2, and then the Bills also took a quarterback. Nothing really interesting happened after that. Here was the quarterback the Bills took, by the way, Corey Finnegan, with like hidden development. Yeah, I ranted about the QB draft logic in the game for a little bit too, so you missed that. The Vikings now, I mean, hopefully they play number 1 pick Doug Moore. Kyle Myers, their number 1 right now. I don't know what's going to happen here. Better hope he develops and passes these guys. I really liked the tackle class and didn't feel like we would be in a position to need to trade up. The first tackle selected was only a few picks before us. It was the Dallas Cowboys selecting Deion Porter, a player I did like a lot. I had a hard time separating the tackles at the top, but Porter was one of the ones I thought was really good. Ultimately, there was a run on tackles here. I forget all the tackles that went. Can't remember all the names. But when our pick came up at 31, I still felt like we were in a good spot to trade down. And we did so with the Vikings, who picked first pick of the second round. We moved back 2 spots and gained a 4th round pick. So it was an easy deal to make, and the Vikings moved up so they could take Dexter Bennett, one of the better guards in the class, to help protect the new quarterback that hopefully gets on the field. We moved back to the top of the second round, and that's when I decided to take a tackle. I felt like there were a lot of good options in this class, but I took a tackle that I knew was a better run blocker than pass blocker, but he looked to be at least good at both. And he was a good athlete, and 21 years old, and a projected first round pick. And our selection was Hal Reed from Florida. Reed is a 71 overall, and that's why his number's 71 perhaps. But he has hidden development. That's a huge pick for us. I liked this tackle class a lot. I'm glad we were able to take advantage of it. And we now have a player who has a chance to become, I think, a franchise caliber tackle. None of these ratings are in the 60s. He's a great athlete, and we'll see how high that development actually is. After taking a tackle that I felt had starting potential, I felt like we could kind of go best player available the rest of the way. I didn't want to wait around all day, though, so 3 picks later, pick 36 overall, I traded up for a linebacker. And that linebacker was David Camp from Ohio State. Normal development player. What intrigued me about Camp at the time, you'll see here he's a speed rusher. Well, in his scouting profile, he had B awareness, B zone coverage, and B man coverage, I'm pretty sure. Now, at outside linebacker, well, those letter grades are related to, okay, how good are they compared to all right outside linebackers, is basically what's that saying. So David Camp has good coverage relative to right outside linebacker rookies. That doesn't mean it's good. 59 zone, 50 man coverage. When I selected him, I knew that was a risk, that the coverage wouldn't actually be good, but he was a finesse rusher. I liked his combine a lot. I didn't actually know his finesse moves, but I saw his athleticism, the coverages and the Bs, and I'm like, let's go get David Camp. Thankfully, he's a good edge rusher because he can't actually cover. But I knew the risk going into it, and that's why I doubled up on linebacker with pick 31 in the second round. That's when we selected Matthew Hearns, because I knew at inside linebacker, B zone coverage actually means something there, because those aren't pass rushers at middle linebacker. 65 isn't going to wow you, but it's a better starting point. He has great speed, good tackling. I think eventually, and maybe not too long because he has hidden dev, but he is the actual player who could take over for Otis Springs. But he won't have to right away. He'll be our third inside linebacker. Now, we talked about Juwan Johnson a bit, and would I keep him at his salary, and what would I do for his backup situation? I struck out on keeping John Bolden and Josh Meadows, so I knew I had to look to the draft, and there were already a couple that I liked. There were actually 2 tight ends that I was considering, and one had great speed. I knew he ran a 4.4 at his pro day in the combine. Stephen DeLoach went 1 pick before our next selection in the 3rd round, but I was picking between 2 tight ends. DeLoach was a lot closer to Juwan Johnson skill set wise. I thought he'd be faster than this. 86 is fast, but Juwan Johnson's like a 90. I was still okay taking a different tight end, and I do think that if I had the choice of both when we selected, I still would have taken the player we got. I knew he wasn't quite as fast, but I knew he had the blocking ability and was 245 pounds. He also ended up having hidden development. Say hello to Warren Griffith, rookie tight end out of Wisconsin. We selected him 31st pick in the 3rd round. 84 speed. So you lose 2 speed, but you gain so much in the blocking, and I think that just all around, Griffith could potentially be the tight end of the future for us, and I see this pick being a very good one. He can already run decent short routes, has decent speed. I see the skill set here, and I think of like when the Lions drafted TJ Hawkinson, but we didn't spend a top 10 pick here. That meant 3 of my first 4 picks had hidden development. The offseason already felt like a success. The rest of the draft was much more difficult. There was a tackle who was falling that I thought was actually much better than this, but he fell because he was a little overrated. I moved up in the 4th round to select Justin Elam. This was not a good pick. He was actually the lowest rated player we selected. He does have, an okay start for his pass blocking, but the run blocking is a very big issue. But he'll be depth for the offensive line. Later in the 4th round, we came back to the defense and selected a safety. That is Alani Owens, 6'1", 224. When I scouted him, it showed like B finesse moves, B man coverage, but like lower zone coverage. I was okay with that though. And I think as a developmental safety, Owens is perfect to have on the team. After that, you knew I had to take a running back. And by the way, before we talk about the running back I took, let's talk about the first running back off the board. Number 6 overall, Antonio Melton went to the Colts, who have Jonathan Taylor. Maybe they're going to start over. But, hidden dev, 84 overall. I mean, if you're going to do it like this. That's a pretty fantastic pick for them. But there were actually, like, no joke, probably 8 running backs who went in the first 2 rounds. Like, the Falcons took one at the top. Emmett Taylor, 78 overall. The 49ers took one super high. Second fastest player in the whole class, Devontae Branch. Raheem Mostert's 31. Very fitting here with 94 speed. This was a loaded running back class, and I didn't get in on the fun. Oh, this is heartbreaking. I missed this. They must have taken him in like the 4th round. Oh, 72. I missed out on Curtis Goodwell, one of only 2 running backs on my board. Not the most speedy guy, though, but still a good player with a solid overall. There was also a running back I wanted to show you who was 5'5". I've never seen a player at 5'5" in the draft class before. I don't even know if he got drafted. He did. He went to the Packers. Bill Grubbs, 5'5", 184. And actually, he wouldn't have been a bad pick for me. He's not fast. He's not going to break tackles, but he can catch the ball. Is that enough, though? Not sure that's enough, but yeah, Bill Grubbs, 5'5", 184. No, instead at running back, I decided to take a chance on a player who had a good combine, and that is Stephon Becton from Wisconsin. And Becton does have good speed, acceleration, agility, but I'm not sure the ball carrier vision is high enough right away. We'll have to see. I think that second running back spot is up for grabs. We're probably going to sign one today. Then later we came back to take a corner. He was projected undrafted at 6'3", running 4.3s at his combine and pro day. Like, why not in the 6th round? I also knew he could press. So there was enough there to take him and start developing him. Our final pick was a wide receiver, and that ended up being Jalen Steele from Michigan. 6 foot, 186. He's fast. He has good release, decent hands. Gotta work on the route running. Overall, I felt like it was a really solid draft class for us. To get 3 hidden dev players, a starting tackle, and a tight end who might become a franchise tight end for us in the future. I felt really good about our offseason. And ultimately, I think I did about everything I could. If you take a look at where our salaries are right now, we are coming into the year with $7 million in cap space. So I didn't leave a lot of meat on the bone for this offseason. I wasn't saving a bunch of money. In fact, I ended up eating a lot of dead money by trading Kadarius Toney. I want to say that his cap number would have been like $5-6 million less had we kept him. But ultimately, I wanted the upgrade at corner. And I'm still not sure we're done there. So let's take a look at where the roster is right now at a variety of spots. But now Tavares Towns is the number 1 running back, and we don't have a ton of depth behind him. We also aren't as deep now at receiver. As I put it in the offseason I had recorded before, we went from being deep at receiver and like kind of different to just having a good receiving group. Rashawn Graham, Michael Thomas, good duo. And then you have depth here we're hopeful for. You know, Jason Weaver If he doesn't have that breakout game, do we move on from Tony? It's not as easy to do that. I know that for sure. But ultimately, moving that salary to the defense to me made sense. Like, we missed James Bradbury, but I also wanted, somebody who was a little bit younger, and at least we're not going to see any regression for Asante Samuel for at least a year or so. But you're looking at an offense now that will have a new starting right tackle, Hal Reed, and then how do we handle moving on from Saquon Barkley and Kadarius Toney? It was important for me, if we're going to downgrade at our skill spots, let's upgrade at the O-line. It'll take a little bit for Reed to surpass Barton's overall, but that was my philosophy there. And then to get Griffith better depth at tight end, he's going to play too. The number 2 tight end plays in this offense. Let's go to defense now. Again, not a ton of overall change, but the cornerback group is shaken up, especially compared to a couple years ago. It's completely different. Asante Samuel, I still want him probably listed as CB2. I just like that side. I think a lot of number ones line up on that offense's left side, and I'll just have Cunningham play the role he did a year ago. But now I wonder, do you play Peppers at slot? Do you play Darrell Gordon at slot? They also like Gresham overall wise in the slot, which is intriguing. Not the fastest guy for corner. He's a fast safety, but a slow corner. I don't know yet. We have more edge rush depth now, getting Emmanuel Ogbah on the team along with David Camp. Just not sold on Frank Sermon. Not sure that's been a great pick for us, although he's up to a 78 overall. The finesse moves are there. It just, might be a case of a guy taking a couple years, and, maybe you actually have to play him to get him production. I don't think he's played a ton. No, that's not true. This isn't nothing. That's over 600 NFL snaps. So I'm glad I addressed it in the draft. But by far the most aggressive thing I did was trading for Asante Samuel, and I'm excited to see what that does for our secondary. But I think that about wraps up what happened in the offseason. But now, I suppose we can go through the preseason and maybe look at some UDFA signings. I have not taken a look at the free agent pool. I don't have a lot of cap space either. If we were to spend some of this cap space, it wouldn't be a bad idea to do so for a running back. And ideally, somebody who can catch the football a bit, because that's not where Towns is at his best. All right. There's no way I'm not signing Austin Eckler. He's still got most of his athleticism, if not all of it. He can still catch the ball. I think that he's the veteran we bring in for a year. And then maybe for the practice squad, we'll bring in Enrique Sears, who's a power back archetype, and 6', 222, solid ball carrier vision. I wasn't able to find a good young receiver to have as that fourth receiver, at least in the draft, so now is the time to address that. Let's bring in Antoine Vincent. He might be able to fill that slot role. I've been wanting to develop a good route running receiver. I tried with Aaron Slay. He got a 2-year, $7 million deal, I think, with the Falcons, so he's moved on. I've had a lot of success actually developing some of these undrafted run stoppers. It happened with CJ Anderson. He's making $8 million a year now. Maybe we can start that whole cycle over. Just got to find the right player. I don't think the options are as good this year. We're going to switch it up a little bit and sign Eric Mabry, 59 overall from Lehigh. 83 strength, 75 power moves though, and 72 speed. Why not? The other thing we should take a look at is cornerback. Who's out there right now if we want someone to play? And are they an upgrade over who we have? I'm not sure about that. I think Darrell Gordon might just be playing. Jeff Duvall, Florida State, 6'2". Okay. Let's bring him in. Here's how I'm setting up the focus players right now. our first 4 draft picks, last year's first rounder, and then Jason Weaver perhaps taking on a larger role. Oh, here's a guy I forgot to mention a little bit. So in the last update that EA put out, they brought back 5th-year options that were absent all year for some unknown reason, but this was Quandre Holt's 5th-year option year. It was an obvious pickup, which means next year his cap hit becomes $14.4 million. Just something to think about. But this is so exciting because now there are so many positions that are like, hey, if we have an injury, we actually might be in some trouble. You know, we're not deep at corner. We're not deep at receiver. This feels much more balanced, and I know it still shows us being like an 87 overall, and I expect us to be a good playoff caliber team. But without a doubt, like, it's getting more challenging. The contracts are getting better, and I can't keep everybody on this team. And it might still get more difficult from here because we're only a few years into these XP slider changes doing their thing. And you still got, you know, what happens with Jason Quinton. That could be big money. But just the fact that I had to actually pick some players to move on from. And then, you know, we got cornerbacks I'm unsure about. Like, we haven't had position groups with question marks like this in a while. I do have trade offers, by the way, for Azeez Ojulari, but they're definitely not ones I want to accept right now. Future 2s, a current 3 and 4 is not like the worst. I'm obviously not interested right now. Like, we're going into the year with Azeez Ojulari, and we're trying to win a Super Bowl, so I'm not trading away a very good player. Well, we've won our first 2 preseason games and have a receiver mentorship. This almost has to be Pat Stallworth. I'm gonna be real. I don't know who Pat Stallworth is. Must be one of the practice squad receivers I had from like last season. Let's just do short routes. That's safe. I was really hoping it would be Jason Weaver. But to be fair, I don't think Michael Thomas is going to be teaching Jason Weaver a whole lot. They're completely different players. So what does everybody think about Tavares Towns? This is the big opportunity for him and contract year as well. There are the upgrades, and he's got big shoes to fill. But last year looked as ready as he ever has. I can't remember if I showed you his stats now or if it was in the 2 hours of offseason I recorded earlier. But I felt confident after seeing how many more tackles he was breaking and just how much more productive he was. Because there were games he had to play. You know, Barkley missed some time, and it's like, all right, here's Towns. It's year 3. What do you got? And it was pretty good. I really wanted this offseason to kind of rejuvenate the series a little bit because I know interest has been on the decline with us dominant with little challenge from teams around the league. And I was pretty disappointed when I saw that I messed up the real offseason, but hope that this was a suitable replacement and that you can see this team now and perhaps the path forward for a fun franchise with more challenge than we're used to and more tough decisions, like all the good stuff. We're getting upgrades here super quick, but I have offensive linemen cranked up a good bit. Let's go pass protector here for Hal Reed. Starting right tackle. How about we get some action now with the actual team ahead of week 1? And I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it's against the Cowboys. I don't know how you want to treat it, but that's what's coming up in week 1. Dallas, again. Final preseason game against the Denver Broncos. I love these uniforms for them. And we run it. Tavares Towns. Oh, he looks swift. Yep, I'm sold. I can turn this off. I'm ready. Although I see Barkley's stats down below, and it makes me a little sad. 3rd down and 6. Petrovsky fires complete, and it's Jawan Johnson. Will he catch passes in the regular season this year? And why did he disappear last season? I don't get it. 1st and 10. Towns cuts left. This looks good. On 1st and 10, Petrovsky slings it incomplete. Number 10. I'm not sure who that is, actually. It's not any of our top 3 receivers, and I'm not familiar with the other ones right now. Also, should we give our new tight end, Warren Griffith, a new number? 3rd and 8. Intercepted. He threw it his way again. That's going the other way. Can he get the angle? Yes. Interception, Denver. That was Alan Pendleton, by the way. He's like a higher overall than Weaver, so the game likes to screw with my depth charts. Here's DJ Spiegel hitting the check down inside the 5. This is 3rd down for DJ Spiegel. And he hands off. Javonte Williams is going to come up short. Otis Springs was there. So was Quentin. All right, give me one more drive with the offense. No interceptions here, Petrovsky. We have Weaver out there now, bottom of your screen on 1st down. And the pass is caught. That's Towns. He will be tested as a pass catcher this year. And if he can't handle it, he's going to lose snaps to Austin Eckler. To the air on 1st down. Pass. Caught. There goes Johnson. Inside the 30. It looks like the postseason. He breaks a tackle and heads out at the 4. I formation. Fullback dive. Didn't work. Shotgun. Graham left. They have good corners here, by the way. They brought in A.J. Terrell to pair with Patrick Surtain. Oh, he got tripped up. And Terrell is the player who intercepted the pass earlier. 3rd and goal. Single receiver to the right. Here's Towns. Welcome to the starting lineup. He does not score. See, we don't kick from 2 yards out. We're going for it. 4th and goal. And it's Towns in for the touchdown. Let's check on one drive now with the starting defense and see how they perform against a good offense. This is a nice team. Wide open, Noah Fant. That's not good. Here's Denver on 3rd and 1. Javonte Williams in the game, and they look to throw. Off his spot, Spiegel across the middle and incomplete. That was tight coverage for Cunningham. Now they go for it, a full yard to go. Maybe even more. And it's a play fake. Spiegel with time in the pocket, wants to run and gets wrapped up on the play by Quandre Holt. Turnover on downs. We're going all the way to the 4th quarter now, just wrapping this up. I want to see a little bit of this backup offense. Jason Weaver's out there. Luke Cook is in at quarterback. And on 2nd down, Cook lets it rip, and he missed. 3rd down and 15. 4-man rush. It's enough. Cook going down. One more drive, maybe. 28-23. 4 minutes to go. Can we put this game away? It's a run. And it won't get much. That's Kadeem McCree. On 2nd down, 8 in coverage. Cook across the middle. McCree close to a first. Luke's gonna throw it. It's caught. Griffith rumbling and breaking tackles. Let's go. That's all I wanted to see here late. That's literally it. Warren Griffith, the future. 17 yards out. Cook fires complete. Ooh, turned up quick there. Gain of 10. Show me you can put this game away. They got Weaver ISO'd on the outside, man. Just throw it his way. McCree, no gain. Just line him up outside. Give him a little shake route. Just make something up on the sideline and tell him to get open. Dumped off. No. And we had a wide open guy for a touchdown. He was trying to get it to Griffith, though. You know Cook is trying to get on my good side. Throw it to the rookie tight end. So, is it working? Yeah. 4th and goal. Touchdown. And that should do it for this one here. Number 19. That's Thomas. Yeah, Brandon Thomas. Like, we all know who Brandon Thomas is, right? Hey, you score a touchdown, I'll check out your ratings. Brandon Thomas is a 70 overall receiver with 84 speed. He got open in the red zone with that 84 short route running. So we're ready for a new year of New York Giants football. That's a 3-0 preseason. And I hope you enjoyed me recapping the offseason for you. Just had to, get this video made while everything is fresh in my head because so much of it had to come down to memory. Wasn't ideal, but I found the button I hit that I shouldn't have hit that kept me from recording my video. Like, I could see it in my software, but there was a button that I clicked that keeps it from actually capturing it to my recording file is the issue. So, big oops. But we move on. Luke Cook, 4 touchdowns in the preseason, no interceptions. Impressive. Tavares Towns, 4.1 a carry, 5 touchdowns. Solid stuff from Eckler. And we'll see about the other running backs on the team. Jawan Johnson, of course, and Warren Griffith. The tight ends taking over. Jason Weaver doing a good job. Kadeem McCree, 10 catches. Okay. Not too many sacks allowed. Defense. Yeah. We're paying the guy who gets 22 tackles in 4 preseason games. 3 tackles for loss for Dexter Lawrence. He had a couple sacks as well. And a few interceptions. I'm looking forward to the first we see from Asante Samuel Jr. You know the corners have made plays in this series, so we have an expectation of turnovers and some shutdown play. I'll save the final cuts for next episode. I've been recording here for a long time and want to get this video up because there hasn't been any videos for a few days, as I have been grinding this UTSA college football revamp stuff. I've had to get to know all these tools for the draft classes or the recruiting classes and get the team actually made and the first episode going. But foundations laid now for that series and for me to start up the Perry Cummings one season spectacular coming your way. And the plan is hopefully later this week, but we'll see if it actually happens. I'll do my best, but that's coming. Have a great day, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave your feedback. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe. I want to know if you're excited for the rest of this series because I have newfound energy and I hope you do too. Have a great day. I'll catch you next time.